Hello, people. Welcome back to the mufcMPB YouTube channel. I know normally I get on journalists and we dive into a bit of information and try and bring you guys some inside knowledge, if you like. But when opportunities like this come around, when you get ex-professional footballers who are big Manchester United fans available, willing to come onto the channel, you have to take these opportunities with both hands. I'm joined by the former QPR, Wickham. He was at Charlton, even at Leeds for a little bit. But most importantly, as I say, he's a Manchester United fan. Hogan Ephraim, how we doing, my friend? Thank you so much for joining me.
No, it's a pleasure to be on the channel. Yeah, looking forward to the conversation. Obviously, it's been an up and down season for Man United. A lot of talk's been going on, so yeah, it'd be good to go about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into your playing days in a little while. You know, some links there with some Man United names that, of course, our followers and our watchers will certainly be familiar with. But we'll start obviously just before we hit record. We were saying, you know, life would have been a little bit better if Man United were doing well, but unfortunately, as it's been probably for the last 10 years or so, it's all up in the air to say the least. So I think we should start with the manager, Eric Ten Hag. You know, as I've said before, you know, you're a Man United fan, you follow them just as much as everyone else does. Even though you were in the game, it doesn't change or affect how much you love Man United. So, from obviously a fan perspective, what do you think about Eric Ten Hag? Should he be sacked in the summer, do you think? Or do you think that he deserves a chance potentially under the new INEOS regime at Manchester United?
I think that he'll be wise enough to know that INEOS will be looking at other candidates. It's been a terrible season, if we're being honest. There has been little bright sparks if you put in what he's done with Garnacho, Kobe Mainu, stuff like that. Not only are they doing amazingly well and being top players for us, the people upstairs will look at he's adding value to the books. That will be important for them. But yeah, they're going to have their eyes wide open. It's not been good enough this season. Not just results. The style of play hasn't been great for long periods. It's probably picked up Boxing Day onwards when Garnacho's gone out to the right. We've scored a bit more freely. But defensively, we look terrible. We're conceding. It's highlighted how many chances we're conceding per game. We just look so open. And I think one of the first things any manager's got to do, whether you're with an under 10s team or whether you're with Manchester United, you have to hide your weaknesses. But we seem to be exposing them, and we're seeing the likes of Casemiro having to make 30, 40-yard runs. Physically, he's obviously not at his best like he was a few years back. So yeah, it's tough for the manager. The injury crisis has been terrible, but it's Manchester United. You don't make excuses. There's enough good players there where you have to make it work. So he will be worried. He's just got to focus on having a good end to the season as best as he can in the league and try and bring the FA Cup home.
Yeah, for sure. I think I just wanted to ask you as well, obviously from going back to your playing days, when you were in dressing rooms where, you know, there was a bit of pressure potentially on the manager, how does that affect the players in terms of, you know, going into each game? Is there almost this element of not quite giving up, but, you know, almost thinking, right, well, it's going to be a new start anyway next season. How much does that sort of impact the players knowing that there is such a focus, if you like, around the manager's situation and future?
When I was at QPR, we was changing managers regularly. I think I had 17 or 18 managers in 6.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But football's a weird old game with the players. The 11 that are playing will love the manager. The other ones, they want change. That's going to be the same at every club there is. You just want to be playing. But yeah, you listen to the noise in the background, and you do feel in the last few years the Manchester United players' shirt is starting to weigh heavy. They're hearing the outside noise. We know how big, obviously, social media is. Manchester United being the biggest club in the world, they're going to get most of the attention. And when things aren't going good, the criticism comes down heavy. You see it with individual players, with managers, and it will be tough for them. They seem to have a decent bond with the manager, just from the outside looking in. They seem to be trying for him. I don't think it's a lack of effort that they're giving. I just think the quality and just how they may be approaching games, setting up in games, it's just nowhere near the level that's needed.
Yeah, it's a massive shame, isn't it? Especially after Eric Ten Hag's first season. You know, I never like this phrase when it comes to Man United that they overachieved, because realistically, third place in a trophy, if we're being honest, should be the bare minimum for Manchester United. But the fact that it was his first season, you know, no one really expected that much of him. I remember people who I speak to in the TalkSport offices who were rival fans were saying to me, you're deluded. There's no chance he's even going to get top four, never mind, finishing a decent season. But I said, look, this guy knows what he's doing. He's got pedigree in Europe and he's certainly got big potential. But it's just a shame, really, how things have unfolded. But yet again, it's probably another career that Man United have chewed up and spat out, unfortunately. That, as you were saying there, the weight of the club it's just such a big thing to do, isn't it, to represent such a big club in the country. But as we know now, of course, INEOS are coming in, or they've already come in. But in terms of obviously implementing their own ideas, their individuals coming into places of employment. But what do you sort of expect INEOS to do in terms of an impact, and what are you hoping for anyway?
Well, they're already obviously making big changes behind the scenes. Omar Barada, that one just shocked us all completely. That just came out of the blue, which was a nice surprise. Then you're hearing about Dan Ashworth, Jason Wilcox. So they know what they want to do. They're going to make changes. I think that they will be looking very heavily at the manager position. They'll be sounding out managers now. I'm not sure if there's an ideal candidate on the market that they would want. Obviously, we hear the links with Gareth Southgate, Graham Potter, smaller links to Nagelsmann and people like that. So they will be looking at the situation, but I'm expecting quite a rebuild from them. Jim Ratcliffe's interview when he first came in, I thought was brilliant. He was there talking about he's not got time to waste. He wants to see Man United winning the biggest trophies in the world, winning the Champions League, winning the Premier League again. And with his age, he's going to want to do that sooner rather than later, obviously. So yeah, I'm expecting big changes. I think there'll be a big summer. I keep thinking about how many outs there will be. And I keep changing my mind. At 1 minute, I think there could be up to 12, 13, 14 outs. And I'm thinking, can you really do that in one summer? But it's just with contract situations, a lot of them only have a year left. A few of the higher earners, they'll want to get out and get the wage structure under control. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But I'm expecting a big impact. And it's weird because over the last 10 years, you never really know what to expect with Manchester United going into a season. Like you mentioned about when Ten Hag in his first year and people were saying, no way, top four. Then we made it. And then this year I thought, oh, well, we'll definitely be in the top four. Maybe we can kick on a level. And then we're nowhere near it. So it was similar to Ollie's third year, where you think you're just going to make that extra step and you just go miles backwards. So, yeah, I am hopeful for this summer. Be fairly pleased when this season's finished, to be fair. But yeah, no, the summer should be good. I think they need to bring in a few top players, just reset the culture a little bit, which they started to do in January. Fair play to them. And yeah, we need a good year next year because Manchester United, no matter what, even at their absolute worst, they shouldn't be outside the top four. That's impossible.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And obviously on the topic of this summer, as you said, 1 week it feels like, the whole squad is going to be released and then we're going to bring in a whole another 24 new players. But in terms of obviously that business, we'll start with obviously the players that will potentially be moved on. Who do you think and who would you almost like to see move on for whatever reason? Maybe, potentially it might be because you don't think they're good enough, or you just think that circle has almost come to a full end and you feel like it may be time for both parties to sort of move on. So we'll start with the departures. Who do you think will go and for what reason do you think they will go?
I think straight away you look at the attacking end of the pitch. Martial will leave. I think his contract situation makes it easier. His lack of availability, and just the inconsistency. He's been there a long time now, so I think it's going to be the right decision that they part ways. Then you look further out to the wings, where I know they're out on loan at the minute, but Jadon Sancho is someone that they would be wanting to sell. I think they should be selling him. Not good enough. Doesn't seem to have the right attitude. I didn't like the tweet he done about Ten Hag. You never come out and say that about your manager publicly. Mason Greenwood will move on for obvious reasons. Palestri, I think, will move on. So they're going to be light up front. They'll definitely sign another striker. I thought it would be more of a backup striker to Højlund, but the links are growing quite strong with Ivan Toney, so that'll be an interesting one. Very good player, but I think he would come in as a starter. Rashford will still be there, no doubt about it. Garnacho will still be there. They'll need another wide man. I think, obviously, Elise is being linked with. That could be very good. In midfield, there will be changes. Casemiro, I think, is probably time if they could get some money back. Insane money that they spent in the first place on someone of that age and that position. So if they could get some money back from Saudi, maybe get him off the wage bill. I think they'll look to do that. Ericsson only got a year left, not getting any younger, not playing nowhere near as much at the moment. I'd be surprised if he stayed around. Amrabat will leave. He'll go back. He's been nowhere near good enough. Um, the centre backs, none of them are safe, other than Lisandro Martinez. None of them are safe. I think Harry Maguire will stay. I would go with Varane leaving, and I think they'll get rid of Lindelof with a year left on his deal. Johnny Evans, possibly fifth choice. I'm not sure if they need an extra body, maybe, but I think they would be happy to let him go. And then Wan-Bissaka's another interesting one. He's only got a year left on his contract. Dalot signed a new deal last summer. So yeah, he could be out the door as well. But that's just so many players. I've not even got onto the likes of Van der Beek and people like that out on loan. So yeah, I'm expecting so many to go. There would only be 7, 8, 9, 10 that are guaranteed to be there next year. So there will be a lot of changes, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would say I agree, but we know how it's going to roll, and it'll end up being just one player that's sold and none that come in. You know the way that it goes when it comes to Manchester United. You just mentioned there a little bit about the striker. Now, I think this is a really, really big thing because, as you alluded to, look, I think it's clear for everyone to agree on. Even if you were fans of Martial, it's just time to go. We've almost been at this situation now where Manchester United have given him ample time to really, prove and not necessarily prove, because on his day he can affect games, he can offer something, not quite what Man United have. So, on his day he can be such a reliable asset, but unfortunately that so-called day hasn't come and hasn't been for a very long time. So, as you say, I think it doesn't take a genius to work out he'll be gone. But as you said there, I think it's such an interesting dynamic, isn't it, with Rasmus Højlund? In the summer previous, where he was signed, it was the idea, wasn't it, that he would be signed as the backup striker to a potential Harry Kane or someone more experienced. But when you obviously do spend 70 million and then you don't get that so-called first choice striker in the door, you're left with a situation where a young kid is being sort of expected of to be the main outlet of goals, which, it doesn't really sit right with me, but that's the situation that we're in at the moment. But as you say, Man United will be in the market for a striker. As you've said there, the links to Ivan Toney, there's other strikers out there like Benjamin Sesko, for example. So, firstly, my question would be, would you want to see a striker come in through the door that would be a backup to Højlund, or would you prefer to see someone who's more experienced come into that role? And also, ultimately, I'm going to have to ask you, who would you want to come through the door at Man United?
Ideally, I would have liked Højlund to be the first choice striker next season. I think when he's played this season, I know he had that spell of not scoring in his first 14 Premier League games, but I just think he's such a good player. He links the play up well. He can run in behind. He can score goals. He can score number 9 tap-ins, or the goal like we saw against West Ham, chopping onto his weaker foot and hitting it from outside the box. So I think he's got so much to his game, Højlund. So I would have liked to see a backup, whether that be a Benjamin Sesko, or probably Xerxes would have been my first choice at Bologna. But I do know that Manchester United are a little bit worried about Højlund's core strength. They're not happy with that's been the case all season. And they believe that that's the reason for his back problem when he arrived, his hamstring problem before he went on international duty. So maybe with his physique and his age, he's not quite knowing the dynamics of his body yet. So they probably feel that they need an Ivan Toney, for example, to come through for the next year or 2 or 3 years, I should say, be the first choice striker. And then Højlund, when he's at the age of 23, 24, he'll get enough games in that time as well. Then the world's his oyster. But yeah, Tony's such a good player and almost a guarantee of goals. Can't really turn it down. So if they are going that way, I totally get it. I just thought they would have saved a little bit of money on that number 9 position, considering how much they need to spend elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And it brings me nicely on to my next question about, addressing the different areas of Manchester United that do need a bit of a reinforcement, shall we say, which is of course the centre half position, as you alluded to a minute ago. And I'm inclined to agree that realistically, if we're talking about guaranteed safety going into next season, it's probably only Martinez in that centre back role, isn't it? I think it wouldn't come as a surprise if any of the others were sold. So that position does need a bit of strength, to put it lightly. With the likes of Branthwaite from Everton and Bremer from Juventus being linked, who would you like to see in that role potentially come through the door, and why?
I would love to see Brantwaite. Firstly, I was doing the Everton Burnley game at the weekend, and I know people say it was only against Burnley, but every time I see Brantwaite, apart from Newcastle away last week, every time I see him, he's just brilliant. A monster of a defender, comfortable on both feet, wins his duels, quick. And I do think Manchester United, going back to the Sir Alex Ferguson days, should always be signing the best young English players. I think that we should have them, and that's not been the case over the last 10 years. When you look at the likes of Harry Kane, even Dele Alli when he was at his best, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, these are players Manchester United should be snapping up. We need that core base that we build around. So Brantwaite for sure, someone I would be after. I do think they're going to go for two centre backs. Bremer looks very good at Juventus. I really like Ousmane Diamonde at Sporting Lisbon. I know he's young, he's only 19, so him and Brantwaite both together could maybe be a little bit too young. They probably want some experience in the back line, but I just think he's an unbelievable player and got the world at his feet. So, yeah, maybe Bremer with his experience could be a great defender as well for Manchester United, but I think Brantwaite's the one they have to nail down. There's been too many slip through the net, and we can't let this one go because the likes of Manchester City, Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea, they'll all be after him. And if Liverpool and Everton weren't rivals, he would have been the perfect Van Dijk replacement. So we're probably lucky that Liverpool ruled out of that one. And yeah, I think we have to get that done.
Yeah, yeah, I think you've certainly sold it for me. So I'm sure the Man United fans listening to this will be right in that camp with you. Look, we've had a little chat about players potentially coming in, but in terms of the players that are already there right now, we know that it's been a really disappointing season. We know that it's been a season full of turns and twists. Just when you think Man United have turned a corner, they get put right back into square one, don't they, with results. But the awards will be coming up at the end of the season for Player of the Year. So who for you has been, despite it, as I say, being a disappointing season, who would you go for as the Player of the Year for Manchester United this year?
I
Come
think
on,
the
it
two,
shouldn't take you that long. Come on, come on.
yeah, I think the two front runners will probably be Garnacho and Dalot. Fair play to Dalot. I was worried about him for a long time when he was first starting off at Manchester United, but he's come into his own this season. Yes, there's little lapses of concentration, but I'm sure he will improve on that. I would probably go Garnacho just for his age. It was only on Boxing Day we moved him out to the right hand side, and ever since he's gone there, I think he's been an absolute revelation. So much to the point you normally see Rashford getting hooked off before him now. It's like he is the main attacker. So I would go Garnacho, but I'd give a special mention to Andre Onana. I think he got so much criticism earlier on in the season, and he was poor in the Champions League. He let in some costly goals. Just think he's bounced back so well, and the mental strength for him to do that. If all 11 players had his mental strength, we'd be a lot better off in the league. I'll tell you that. So he would get a mention, but no, I'd go Garnacho, closely followed by Dalot.
Yeah, I think
Well,
you.
of course, Bobby Mainoo's got to be up
Yeah.
there, but he missed so much of the start.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, maybe just too early. We'll give him Young Player of the Year instead, so
give
everyone's
it him.
happy. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think do you know what you bring up Dallo there, and I think with Diego Dallo, it was such a crazy thing to see, really, because of course when he joined Manchester United, Jose Mourinho, I remember this from the moment he said it. He said this boy will be a star, and you think initially, he's Portuguese, he's obviously going to say that look after his own. And he had such a difficult start, didn't he, Dallo? He was in, he was out. Sometimes he was looking really consistent, and sometimes he just looked like such an unreliable player. But for this season, especially, he's stepped up. He's sometimes been put out to left back. He's played at right back, and he's really made that position his own. I think the right back position was somewhere where Man United fans were looking at thinking they need reinforcements. But when you look at Dalot's performances, his consistency, and you think to yourself, this player is exactly what Jose Mourinho said. I genuinely believe that Dalot is arguably one of maybe 4 or 5 players at Man United at the moment that I can genuinely see in a team that does win a title of major major kudos, a Champions League or a Premier League. So yeah, I'm completely with you on that one. You mentioned there a little bit towards the end of Kobe Mino, and now look, this player, as you said, I don't think he's quite in the Player of the Year category because, as you say, he did miss a big chunk of the start of the season. He got injured, didn't he? Despite everyone being really excited to see him play. But he's been absolutely brilliant. He's one of these players that you see, and it doesn't come around very often. You watch him play, and you think to yourself, this young lad looks like he's playing with 20 years experience, and he's not even 20. And it just makes you think to yourself, dearie me, Man United need to grab onto this young man and hold on to him for as long as possible. But how good do you genuinely believe he can be?
Outrageous. I honestly think he's so good. I watch him and to be that composed at 18 and that brave to get the ball off your goalkeeper or off your centre backs in tight situations and wriggle out of it, I don't understand it, because at 18 I was never that composed, trust me. And you do see it with a few youngsters nowadays. I remember Pedri and Gavi when they first come through, and their composure, and you just think, where do they get all this belief from? But yeah, Mainoo's exceptional. I already think he's the best midfielder at Manchester United already. Next year, whichever midfielder they're going to be looking to sign, it has to be to complement him and get the best out of him. And I know there's talk about what position is he? Is he a six? Is he an eight? I actually think right now I would have him as a six. I do believe he'll go into an eight. I don't think goals and assist, putting that Liverpool one aside at the weekend, which was amazing. I don't think that he's got that by the bucket load at the moment, but that will come with age and experience. And I just think he's so good defensively. I know when we played Chelsea last midweek, he's made a tackle with about 6 minutes to go where Gallagher's on the penalty spot about to score, and he slides in from behind. Brilliant. There was another interception. And I just want him to be the player who's the one getting it off the back four, because I trust him more than any other player with the ball. Both feet, comfortable, agile. Yeah, just sensational. I love watching him, and he's been a real bright spot for this season, because we'd obviously heard about the talent that he possesses. I didn't realize it was of this level. He's just, yeah, he's gone beyond expectations for me.
Yeah, for sure. I think the only worry that I have is managing them expectation, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, despite him playing so well and looking so assured, it's that pressure on a young lad, similar to what I was saying a little while ago about Hoyland. You want them to be almost in a natural environment to really grow organically rather than being forced into a position and constantly being relied on. So that's my only worry. But if that's my only worry, then I'm almost fine with that, because you think it's not about, improving his game. It's just about keeping consistent. And when you're at that level at such a young age, it's a very rare thing to be, isn't it? And staying in that midfield area, going on to obviously your playing days, you, I believe, had the chance to play with Ji Sung Park at QPR. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
He was a massive fan's favorite, and he is almost like the definition of underrated footballer, isn't he? Someone who doesn't, spark excitement in players when in fans, sorry, when you see his name on the team sheet. But I can imagine from a player's perspective, playing alongside him, you just almost a sense of relief, because he's going to give everything. Just take us through what it was like to play alongside him, especially of the fact that you were a Man United fan, so you would have naturally just followed his career anyway. And then when you got the opportunity, take us through that moment and what it was like to represent a football club with one of the players that you used to support.
Yeah, no, it was just unbelievable. You mentioned his work rate, and that's the thing that stands out. Because I think when he came to QPR, he would have probably been around 31, 32, maybe. He would have won all the trophies that he's won at Manchester United, made all the money in the world, massive celebrity back home in South Korea, but just so humble and just want to work hard every single day, not just on a match day where you do see some players that they want to work hard on a Saturday and take their foot off the pedal in the week. But no, it was just a pleasure to be around his company. Quiet lads, but he liked to be in and around when everyone else was joking. He liked to just be laughing along. But yeah, no, it was fantastic to play against him. I was lucky, to be fair. When I first came through at West Ham, I was in there with Teddy Sheringham, and obviously scoring that goal in the Champions League final, he was one of my heroes growing up. So yeah, I'm thankful with some of them Manchester United players that I got to play alongside. I'm always a little bit nicer to them just because they made my childhood a bit better. But no, fantastic players. Carlos Tevez as well, another very good player. That's when he first came to England at West Ham, so that was good. But yeah, you normally get this thing with players from Manchester United, especially ones that come through the academy, the likes of Makeda and Fabio da Silva, Danny Simpson. They've just been brought up a little bit different. So the way that they walk into the training ground, the way they present themselves, the way they train, it's all the top standard. And I think that's what Ferguson was so special with. He set those standards. The players knew you can never drop below those at any day of the week. And they carried that through the rest of their careers. And that's why they had the fantastic careers that they did.
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing to hear someone from your position talk about these players who obviously have moved on, but have still kept them sort of morals and values that they were taught very early on in their career. I just wanted to talk a little bit there about Makeda. You mentioned him there briefly. There was a video I think Man United put up recently. Obviously after Kobe Mainoo's goal against Liverpool, it was weirdly similar, wasn't it, to Makeda's goal against Aston Villa on his debut. It was almost quite scary to be honest, but after that goal on his debut, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he scored again in the following game that he played for Man United as well in the league. So, it was almost like the career was mapped out already, which is crazy to say. But why do you think it didn't quite work out for him? Do you think maybe because of that, as we were saying throughout today, that pressure of playing for Man United, or do you think maybe it could have been something else?
Um, well, yeah, well, like you said, he started off amazing. The goal against Villa, then he scored Sunderland away, I think it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Brilliant start. Key reason to why we won the title. I just think maybe at his age, the expectation. Obviously, I met him a little bit after that. He did like to go out, so
Mm.
maybe took his eye off the ball a little bit there. But yeah, it's hard to stay with those standards when you score in your first two games for Manchester United, and you're a big reason why the title looks like it's coming home. But yeah, I think he maybe took his eye off the ball a little bit. I no disrespect to him, because he's a fantastic lad. I don't think his ability is of the level to consistently be a Manchester United player. So yes, he had two wonderful moments there, and huge moments for the club and in their history. But I don't think in the long term he was ever going to be Manchester United full on quality to lead the line.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Someone of that level and that capability still, for whatever reason, just couldn't quite make it. It's the cold reality of football, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day, people see that one moment, but you've almost got to live through every single day, haven't you? And ultimately, it doesn't quite work out in the way that you wanted it to, in a way. I know we're running out of time. I've just got a couple of more questions for you. One name that I really did want to talk to you about is Steve McLaren. Now, of course,
Yeah,
I believe I think he was the assistant coach at your time at QPR at one stage, maybe about 2012, 2013 time, which is crazy, 10 years ago. I mean, where's the time gone, But I just wanted to really, delve into your experiences with Steve McLaren. Of course, he's part of the setup at Manchester United now. I remember when, of course, Eric Ten Hag brought him in. I thought it was quite a savvy appointment because at the end of the day, Ten Hag had his ideas, but I think it was quite important to have that element of the old Manchester United, if you like, and to really, make sure that base is covered. So, firstly, I just wanted to sort of, dive into your experiences with Steve McLaren. What was he like? What did he offer? And how important do you think he is to Eric Ten Hag's sort of future, if you like, at Manchester United?
firstly, as a person, he's amazing. Brilliant lads. Fantastic to have around the training ground. He's fair with all the players. Yes, he's got a side when he can switch, and you know who's in charge. But then on the training ground, unbelievable coach. The best actual coach I've worked with. The training sessions were spot on. Everything was brilliant. The only thing I wonder at Manchester United is when Steve McLaren was assistant manager, it was to Harry Redknapp, who probably similar into the Alex Ferguson mode, didn't do much on the training ground. He would more delegate it to his assistants, and that's where I got to see Steve McLaren flourish. Whereas looking at Ten Hag, I get the impression he does quite a few of the training sessions himself. So I'm not sure if Steve McLaren ends up being just a nice face to have around, or if they're sharing the duties. But I would like to think that they're sharing the duties because he's an unbelievable coach. And we had a few players at QPR at the time, Jermaine Jenas, Kieran Dyer, ex-England internationals. They all said the same thing. This is the best coach they've ever had. They'd worked with him for England as well. And the respect that he holds in the change room is unbelievable. And that year we ended up getting promoted to the Premier League. And I know that all the players, they had it down to Steve McLaren and his work behind the scenes because it was just fantastic. And yeah, like I said, I really do hope that he's taking a lead role in these Manchester United training sessions.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's just amazing to have someone who's experienced, playing week in, week out and learning from obviously individuals that are still related to the club now. I've just got two more questions for you.
No worries.
Well, one is sort of split into two, and I always ask it when I speak to ex-footballers. They're probably annoyed at me asking this, but I always love to get this bit of information off them. Like I said, split into two. Who's the best player you've played with, and who's the best player you've played against in your footballing career?
Best player I played with was Teddy Sheringham.
Not bad. Not too bad.
QPR fans might not be happy, so I'll put Adele wrapped in there as well.
Oh,
But yeah, no, Teddy Sheringham, seeing him dropping into that number 10 position, he was similar to Harry Kane, how he is nowadays, just so intelligent. The way he would lay the ball off to you, you would know if you needed to take one or two. Everything was just so much detail in his touch. So yeah, and also he was my hero growing up, so he would be number one. Best player I played against, I'll have to put two in there as well. There was, don't know if you remember, Nuri Sahin.
yes, I
He was
do
at
remember him.
Dortmund, Real Madrid,
Yes,
Liverpool.
yes, I do remember him.
Turkish central midfielder. I played England 17s or 18s against Turkey, and he was unbelievable. Technically
Wow.
the best I've seen. And then when I was at QPR, the hardest right back I played against was Kieran Trippier.
Yeah.
He was just non-stop energy up and down. You sit off him, he can whip in across, you get tight, he can flick it around the corner. He was a nightmare. I remember me and Neil Warnock having like a 5-minute argument during the game. He's telling me to get close to him and I can't get close to him. There was all sorts going on. But yeah, they would be the ones.
Yeah, yeah, perfect answers. It's almost like a pinch me moment, isn't it? When you, because as I said before, when you're going through your career, you don't really have time to reflect, do you? And when obviously it's time to obviously go into new ventures. I know you do work in the media now, so it's one of them things where you do get them chances to look back on, and it's great. I've just got one final request. It's almost not a question, it's almost a request in a way. So, of course, with your experience being a footballer, you're still around the game now. You're a Manchester United fan. This is a Man United channel. Please tell us why Manchester United fans should keep the faith and United will return to the glory days. What are the hopes that you have for Manchester United going into the future?
I just think the size of the club, obviously the money that they spend, players, they're still desperate to play for Manchester United. I speak to players at other top 6 Premier League clubs. They tell me their dream would be to be at Manchester United. And yeah, it's just the weight that they hold. So things are going to get better. I have been saying that for 10 years, but they are going to get better. And I honestly believe that INEOS coming in is the game changer. I think that they will get the decisions right. I think they'll sign the right players, the right characters, which has been a problem for Manchester United recently with the characters they've signed. But I just think it's going to get right. It has to. Manchester City are obviously in a lot of trouble. You don't know what's going to happen there. The league could open up in the next few years with Jurgen Klopp leaving. So yeah, they have to keep the faith. It's the theatre of dreams, and it's only so long until they're back. I have no doubts about that, and I can't wait for this season to end. But I'm also so excited for next season to start. I just think it's going to be a really good one, and they might clip me up, and this comes out being terrible
This is
next year.
getting clipped up. This is getting clipped up.
But no, I am very hopeful of next season. There's potential there. Those two young kids that we mentioned, Garnacho and Mainu, and they'll bring a few more in. Injuries will clear up. We'll be a lot better off next year.
And there we have it. What better way to end a Man United podcast than that? I almost feel like we're going to win the lot next year. Not that we're going to even be in the Champions League, but I feel like we're going to win it. So we'll go with it. Hogan, thank you honestly so much. Not just for your time today, but your contributions to the game. It's the game that we all love. You play inside, and the fact that you're still in it now, it's amazing to see. And it's amazing to see that you've still got the smile on your face. So thank you so much for the time that you've spent talking to us today. And I genuinely mean it when this has been one of my favorite podcasts. So thank you so much, my friend.
No problem at all. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on the channel. I'm a big fan of the channel and the work that you guys do on Twitter. So keep it up, and we'll speak soon.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure it won't be too long until we get you on, just so I can say to you, and I can blame you next year, that you told me it would be a good season and it hasn't worked out. So I'll be straight at your door when that happens. But no, thank you so much as always. I do really appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And of course, thank you to everyone who's watched today's episode on the mufcMPB YouTube channel. I'm sure you guys would have loved it just as much as I have. Please be sure to like and subscribe. I say it every video. I almost have to. It really helps the channel grow, and it helps us get on brilliant guests like Hogan and all the other wonderful names that we've had on. So please be sure to like, subscribe. Make sure that you're following mufcMPB on Twitter. And who knows, we may just have another brilliant guest in the works. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.